I was gonna say, I'll entertain a motion from Evelyn to approve the minutes of the last
We'll make
meeting.
that motion.
Can I get a second?
Alright, yeah, you're.
Second.
Ron's a virtual dictator when he gets that gavel.
Virtual?
No,
I'm the real thing.
Actual.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Go ahead, Mike.
Morning.
Talk like Marcy.
First one's pretty simple, I'm just requesting to transfer $8,000 from our computer reserve fund for our backup hardware and software. This is something we budgeted over a year ago into the reserve fund, and we're kinda like the point of needing to do that portion of the project. So it's already budgeted, and looking to move the money so we can spend it.
I will make the motion.
I will second.
Okay, thank you. That, motion made by Evelyn, seconded by Rachel. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Oh, yep. Second thing, a little more involved. In IT, I got a predicament, a financial dilemma, but a solution. Two things happened in the fall in IT. After the budget was all done, two things happened. We had a programmer resign without notice. And then a short time later, the vendor we used for programming went out of business without notice. So our predicament is we're short-staffed and our programming language has got to change. We have to do a lot of research and things. So we spent a lot of time looking into what we should do, and we felt leaving the position open for a while would benefit us. We could figure out how to fill it later when we pick a new vendor. So we found a new vendor, and thus that fixes the predicament, but the financial dilemma is we never budgeted any money for it. So it's a $9,000 cost for the software, and then there's also an $8,000 on-site training, which is very beneficial. We're several months behind, and there's a learning curve, and we could catch up over time, but it's just very beneficial to just get going. So, but we didn't budget it, and there's my financial dilemma. But the solution, if we look at salaries, because we never filled that position, there's a chunk of money there that would more than cover these expenses. So that's my story. It's just transfer money from the salaries to get the software we need and the on-site training to get us caught up so we can get going again. And then later on down the road, we'll look at how we're going to fill the position and stay within the budget this year.
3 for 3.
I will make a motion.
Second motion.
Motion made by Evelyn, seconded by Edna. Ron?
Oh.
I thought we were in discussion. Are you ready to vote?
Mhm.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
The next one's one I do each year, going to the local IT Directors Conference. And it's not till May, but I thought I'd do it now so we wouldn't have to call a meeting later just for one simple thing, and it's something we did budget for.
I'll move that.
Motion made by Ron, seconded by Evelyn. Discussion?
Do we have $100?
Coming out of contingency. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Then the last one is also for a conference. It's a little strange in that I don't have the exact date. I don't have all the exact costs for, travel and hotel fees. However, they cut the cost in half if you'll reserve early, so they can gauge their attendance and put all those costs together. So, and once again, it was something we do have money for. Even with the unknown hotel costs, I can kind of guess what they're going to be. The money's all there. So I'm trying to get approval early to, buy into this conference. It's part of the new software we just approved that we want to do, to send one person to help with, training and getting us forward in the future.
This is in Burlington, Mass.
Yeah.
So is this $695 the full cost or the 50%
It's the
off?
cost of the conference, yes, it's 50%, that is the cost now, it's 50% right now. If we book it later, they double that cost. What's not included is the hotels and things of that nature, because they couldn't give us a rate yet until they gauge it all. But even when that rate comes in, we have money in a training code that would more than cover it.
I'll move it.
Motion made by Ron, seconded by Edna.
I have a question.
Yes, Evelyn?
We're doing this for a cost of $695, but the hotel and lodging fees are coming later. We don't know what they are now. Do we need to approve the lodging and meal fees or whatever now? Because if we're setting a top end of $695 and that's just the attendance, I didn't know if we needed to.
Well, I sort of had that question. Did you plan to come back with that figure, or is it necessary, or, I mean, you said you have the money,
Yeah,
but
I guess I've got the same question.
we all have that question.
I don't know.
Ask the parliamentarian.
How much
would
is
that
in
be
your budget?
$1,500 for training and travel. In a hotel for 2 days, and the meals can't be that much money.
You should have enough money.
Right?
Yeah,
Well, refer to Amanda there, she put her.
This will have to be approved by resolution because it's out-of-state travel.
Mm-hmm.
So we would need that information for the, you can't do anything until it's approved at the February board meeting. And this will need to be included in the resolution.
so, yeah, I guess that's the pickle on it. They offer you your discount now, then give you, once people have all signed up.
How long do you have that window?
Well, they asked them to extend it to the end of February for waiting for the board meeting.
But they haven't set the date for when the meeting, when the
Correct.
conference is
Yeah.
gonna be?
Yeah, that's something they put out the field and say, okay, who's gonna register early? Once we have this number of people, then they go through their local hotel and they get all their bulk rooms together and come up with a rate. And then they say after this date, when they publish it, then it's, you know, the double the cost of the conference.
But you have $1,500 in your budgeted line for training.
Correct.
So your purpose is just to save money.
Yeah, look for permission to book the conference, maybe if that's why I should be asking just for permission to book the conference pending approval later for the whole thing. I'm not sure how to approach it then.
Sorry, I kinda walked in on,
Well,
They have an out-of-state travel request, they don't have the firm cost because there's a certain rate they
Right.
give now, and then once everything's firmed up, then the rate will be higher, so they're giving that opportunity to enroll or commit to it for a lower amount. So the problem is they need a resolution because it's, out of state, but they don't know what the total cost will be yet.
so he's asking permission to book a spot,
Right.
pay the 50% reduced rate, but we don't have all the figures for
why
the
wouldn't,
book.
I don't understand why you wouldn't have the figures, I guess.
What they're doing is they have a conference and they haven't announced the exact dates and all the rates yet. So they try to get people to register and give you 50% off, so instead of paying, you pay $700 instead of $1,400 for the conference. And once everybody is registered, then they go and they set up the rooms and give you your room rate based on how many people they've gotten so far.
Do you have your money in the budget?
Yes.
The other quandary that we have though is that if we don't do it early, $695 times 2 is $1,400. We don't have enough money in the budget for travel and,
Right.
and hotel.
Well, no, if he has the money in the budget, then I don't see an issue. I thought he didn't have the money in the budget, I thought he was looking
Oh,
for
no.
money. Oh.
We just don't have the figures.
Can we just make a motion to approve that he signs up for it?
With a not to,
Registration.
well, and with a not to exceed, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Well, we have a motion and a second on the floor already.
To register.
Wish to, it's your motion, isn't it, Ron?
Okay.
So do you wanna amend it to
No,
reflect that?
I think we ought to allow him the $695 to register for the conference, and then there'll be another meeting that we're gonna have to have when he gets all the details as to the cost of the hotel and, travel.
Okay. If that's the way you wanna do it.
And it may mean he comes back to another quick meeting, but I mean, we don't have any of the other costs.
Okay. The other thing that Paul was suggesting was not to exceed your budget, but this is fine too. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
That's all I've got, unless somebody's got any questions for me. Well, that's what we're hoping to switch to.
You all done?
That's it.
See what you need.
Should I sign this one now?
My granddaughter's license, like you got. Yeah.
Can't afford it.
I didn't buy it. Thank you. I wouldn't know what it was.
We're cool.
My wife buys her everything, she's the most typed out granddaughter.
Mine's a TJ Maxx special, so. You'd think the way you shop for your little projector there, you'd try to do better.
I know Protector, I don't know Uggs.
I already
I
have
don't even
it.
know what Ugg means.
Pretty
And
sure.
right, you know something.
God.
your vote, you can still vote. It's not here that says vacant, you can still
There we go, for today.
So, Amy, I guess you're gonna explain what the policy is, what the advantages are to extending it out, why we would do that?
I had thought, I was gonna explain it, but I did bring Lee Pollock from Rose and Kiernan to do that for you.
Whoever can talk faster.
With the sale of Westmount, we terminated all of the insurance coverage at the closing date. Your typical, the property, the autos, the boiler, all of that. The only question that hangs in the air for you all to determine is the healthcare professional liability. You have some options that include either terminating it at the end of the year when the sale took place, continuing for 1 year or 2 years. And with that, Mr. Pollock?
Well, and you said it quite simply, the decision is to decide, you know, whether you want to just terminate it or you want, and professional liability is different than any other insurance policy that you buy, in that the trigger for coverage is when the claim shows up, not when the occurrence happened. And that's why it's very common to purchase a tail when terminating professional liability. And it's complicated by, you know, there are some notice of claims limitations under New York State law. The kinds of claims that are covered by these policies are if an occurrence happened, a person fell out of bed in November, and it manifested itself, you know, in February or March or April, and it's very common to just in caution, basically, to extend those policies for a 1-year period, where any claim that comes in within the next 12 months would be covered by the insurance carriers.
This is, you know, just a little more detail. This is something that one of our caregivers would have not done, or mishandling of a patient.
It's a malpractice type situation.
There are no outstanding claims right now?
There are no known claims right now, or incidences, right, that we know of.
How late would could one come in 18 months or 2 years, or, a valid one?
Generally, no. You know, there's in this, it's a legal issue, but you know, there are things under section 50E where they really have to show up within 90 days. However, a judge could allow them a longer period of time under certain circumstances, and then, of course, in the death case, they have up to 2 years. But it's rare that you don't know that somebody's already passed away.
I can just address that for a second. Basically, there are no outstanding claims, and we would get claims in our office if there were any issues in terms of any kind of medical problem that we might have over at Westmount prior to the sale, and we did not receive any, so, any recent ones.
So what you're saying to us, Lee, is that for $5,600, we would continue the insurance coverage on this particular policy for 1 year,
Mm-hmm.
and that should get us through without any difficulty.
Yeah, that's absolutely, yeah. With a lot of care.
So it's a question of prudence, then, how far do we do it? And a year is probably
It's optimal.
Insurance?
Yes.
So, do we have any other insurance that would cover us otherwise? now that we don't have, is there anything else that Already County has?
That's a very good question, and the answer is no. So if you decided to terminate it, then you would be without, you know, the county attorney would have to handle that claim, and it would be self-insured.
Well, what's the feeling of the committee?
I'd make a motion, we go with 1 year.
I'll second that.
Do we need to
Made by
determine,
Evelyn and seconded by Ron.
we need to determine a source of funding?
Yes, but actually the resolution request on the back,
I'd refer it to finance to determine a source of funding if we need to.
Further discussion? All in favor?
So
Motion
call for
carried.
resolution then.
You got anything else for us?
that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything we wanna have a long and detailed discussion about? Good. How about a motion to adjourn?
I just wanted.
Well, I guess,
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
motion made by Mr. Leggett, seconded by Ms. Wood. All in favor?
Aye.
I think we need to discuss the dictatorial nature
We're
of
done.
our
That's up.
Where is that one?
Ryan, we're only half an hour behind.
No, Mike Chervini will be there, 'cause he wanted to meet with me this afternoon.